I'm Coach Rich of Rich Lindsay Fitness, and this is stretching for couch to 50k. This is a video about static stretching. Static stretching is very good at increasing your body's range of motion. So if you do find that part of your body needs a little bit more range, if you are impeded by your range of motion, then static stretching certainly is the way to go. Now, you don't always need a larger range of motion for a lot of movements. In fact, some might almost say that running, you don't require much in the way of static stretching in your routine. If you do have range of motion issues during your running, with your running gait, that would point to much more serious conditions in and around the leg. Something you should refer to a doctor or a physio or a sports specialist. Static stretching is not going to help you with recovery. Static stretching is not going to help you improve your performance. I've only been static stretching for maybe 6 months or so on the advice of my physio during a rehab process. When I'm not in a rehab process, I generally do not use any form of static stretching as I'm quite happy with my body's range of motion. What we're going to look at in this video is a nice quick stretching routine that you can do to improve range of motion in your hamstrings, your quads, your hip area and your glutes as well. So the big areas for running. I like to do all of my stretching from a seated position, and that's mainly because I'm quite lazy. That and the fact that if you can learn to do stretching and multitask with it, you're going to find it much easier to bring into your daily regime. So by sitting and being able to stretch, it means you can do other things like watch the TV, do a little bit of texting, reading, whatever you like to do. Additionally, I like to make sure that I've got a wall behind me or I'm leaned up against a sofa that's not going to move, something along those lines, as it allows me to keep a good body posture through certain motions. It also allows me to push into stretches a little bit more. Some things that you'll see as we go on with the video. So the first movement we're going to look at, and we're just going to start with this nice flow, go back to back with movement to movement as we go along. We're going to take one leg and just bring it straight out in front of you. Go ahead and tuck the sole of your foot into your thigh. Now we're trying to keep this knee on the floor as well as both glutes as we move towards our foot. Okay, and from this position, we're looking to just take ourselves as close to the toe as possible. If we can grab the toe, then great. Otherwise, it just really is as far as you can take it today. So we bring ourselves down. Now, when you're in this stretch here, and I like to hold my stretches for around 60 seconds or so. Whilst you're in this position here, one of the things that you might find is a little bit of stress behind the knee. And that's more than likely caused by your calf being engaged and being stretched at the same time. When our hamstring and our calf are at full stretch, at full range of motion, they're pulling against the knee, right in this connection point behind the leg. So if you are finding any kind of discomfort here, my recommendation is to let go of the toes and just let those toes face as far away from you as possible, and then just hold onto the ankle, something along those lines. Now, as with any of these stretches that we're going to do, one of the things that you can do to increase the stretch if you're having difficulty holding it on is, like I say, we've got this position behind us to push on off. So now I'm able much easier to control my stretch, find it on the hamstring and hold it in position. So remember, for each of these stretches, you're just holding it in a mild discomfort feeling, okay? And generally I like to hold it for around 60 seconds or 92 minutes, depends on how kind of interesting the TV is that I'm watching. But it's a good stretch on that hamstring area, and it really helps us to move towards a much better range here. As you bring it out nice and gently. We're going to go ahead and do the same with the other leg as well. So remember, we bring our foot into the thigh, knee on the floor, toe out in front of us, and we bring ourselves towards that foot. Okay, we're trying to keep our hips in the same range of motion, so don't twist into it over onto the side or anything like that. That's one of the reasons I like to bring my my arm across the body like that, to keep the rotation sound. Okay, and remember, if we're having problems holding the position or a little bit of discomfort in that toe, go ahead and stretch that, point that toe on out, or even use the wall behind you to really work into that stretch. So there's loads of situations where you might find you need a little bit more range in your hamstrings. Maybe you've got some damage in there that you're rehabbing from. Let's say you've got some kind of proximal tendinopathy in the hamstring area, you know, right up at the back, that nice connection joint in the hamstring. And because of that inflammation, your range of motion is reduced, so you want to get a little bit back from there. So this is a great way to get a bit of length back in the hamstring for something along those lines. What we're going to do next is take our legs out as far as you can, either side, so as far away from the heels as you can. Once again, we're still sat up nice and controlled against this wall or your sofa, and you've got your lumbar flush and your shoulder blades as well. So already in this position, you can hopefully feel the stretch in your groin area, in your hip, this kind of whole section, okay? And what we're looking to do, if you want to improve the intensity, increase the intensity, once again, we can either, if you've got the mobility, specifically like in your lower back, to bring yourself over, then great, you can do that. Alternatively, once again, use the situation that you've got behind you to push on back and to intensify the stretch. So suddenly, I'm able to control my body position and really increase the stretch. I've got it in my hamstrings now. I've got it on my adductors. I've got it in my groin. Really great stretch through all of those areas, just because I've got a little bit of something behind me to push myself into it and control my stretch's intensity a lot better than if I was just using my core to do it. Once again, this is one of those things that we hold mild discomfort as much as we want. If you feel it in the joints in the knee area, do bring it back a little bit. Maybe pop a soft bend in your knees to take it away from there as well. We don't want to be stretching those ligaments at all. Okay, bring yourself out of that. Now we're going to repeat basically the position from the last one, and then by that I mean bring your foot, the sole of your foot into the thigh. Once again, we're keeping the knee and both butt cheeks on the floor, and we're going to drive ourselves, so we're going to turn ourselves, we're not going to turn ourselves into it and keep our hips on that alignment. This time, we're just going to side bend into it, okay? So once again, I'm able to grab my foot and hold this position with little stress in my knee because of the range I've got in both my calf and my hamstrings. If you are finding this painful, then by all means, in your knee area, take the hand away from the toe, let those toes point out, get rid of the calf engagement, and really concentrate on the hamstring. For an additional kind of in our QL muscle at the back, if you've got the range of motion and the control here, you can start to work towards bringing this arm up to the sky to get a good old bit of stretch in that back as well. It's another area that we may look at in future videos, but especially for runners can cause a lot of problems if it's not kept in good condition, and even start working over towards that hand as well. But primarily, we're interested in the hamstring. So primarily feel it on that hamstring. Remember, as always, if you need that encouragement, if you need that little bit of extra support to kind of keep that range controlled, use the wall behind you. That's what it's there for. It's almost a bit like if you think about being in the gym, as we switch over legs, if you think about being in the gym, you've got those machines that you use, the isolation machines, and that's what we're looking to do for the most part, is isolate the muscle. Okay, we are looking for a very specific area to get stretched. So although we can add lots of variations, like I say, this bit with the calf in here, holding onto your foot, we can add the QL in as well, coming over here as well. We're really looking to just isolate that hamstring stretch. So at the very least, you want to be feeling it on your hamstring. So encourage that first. Find the stretch into the hamstring first before you add all of the extra parts on it. And we are keeping, or as much as we can, this knee on the floor and our butt cheeks as well. There we go, good. And as we come on out of it, we're just going to go ahead next and bring both of our legs right out in front of the body, okay? Now, we don't really want the legs together, and you want them, well, it depends on how your connection point of your hips work really, but we want them directly under as if you were standing, okay? So there's generally going to be a little bit of space between the two. We don't want to change the angle like this because this isn't a normal standing motion position. So, and once our feet are straight out in front of us, we're going to just go down towards the toes. Now, once again, if we can get our hands on the toes, that's great. We want to try and keep our shoulders away from our ears, so don't scrunch it all up or anything like that. Keep that good body position as best we can. And just like the rest of the motions, the rest of the stretches, if you can't get down to this position, you can start by grabbing your shins or maybe your knees, shins, down towards your ankles. If you really can't get there, once again, you've got that support from behind you to push on in and hold the stretch. So think about the engagement with those toes, pushing them away to take away the calves, take away a little bit of the stress in the knees from behind. And this one here, for me, is a range of motion that I have not had since I was about a toddler. And this is something that only came out of the consistent work that my physio had me doing from a stretching point of view. And I'll tell you what, the first time I was able to do this position, I was very happy. Excellent stuff. And so we're just sitting here, nice and controlled. And like I say, maybe when you start to learn this routine, you start just doing it whilst you're watching a little bit of Netflix. So maybe you're watching Grays, maybe you're watching one of my other wonderful videos. Something along those lines. Excellent. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, let's bring our soles of our feet together. And once again, remember, this whole time our bum isn't really moving. Our back, although it's coming away, we are back and lumbar on against the wall. Soles of the feet together, like I say, and good posture, and with just a little bit of tension pushing down on the knees, okay? Opening up the groin, opening up the hips. We've got a good stretch going on right here from our crease all the way out. Nice push down. If you bring your legs, your heels closer to your groin, you are going to intensify the stretch. Play around with it. You really want to be feeling it about 2 to 3 inches from the actual groin area. So just this little tiny section here is where you really want to be feeling it. Excellent stuff. Okay. Carrying on with this, then we're going to cross our legs next. And just like a lot of the movements and the stretches that we hold, we don't necessarily need it like a super tight leg cross like you were trying to sit up straight at assembly or anything along those lines. We're just looking to put our body in a certain position to induce a stretch in and around the hip and groin area. So whether that's a nice loose cross foot, your heels are away from the groin, or whether it's a little bit closer, it's dealer's choice. Have a play around with it till you feel a good deep stretch going in and around our areas. Once we're here, we're looking to bring ourselves forward, maybe just onto our hands. Maybe we can bring ourselves down onto our forearms. We're trying to keep both of your bum cheeks on the floor throughout this. Maybe you find yourself being able to bring yourself even further down, okay? Whatever it feels like to you, feels good for you. Remember, additional thing you can always do if you're having problems getting into the position, because let's say your range of motion, especially in your lower back, it's going to restrict a lot of these, you can push yourself into them as well to get some of the same benefits. And the whole time, anytime you're thinking of taking a stretch a little bit further, take a big deep breath in And it's on the exhale, when you're breathing out, you want to push yourself into a little bit more. So let's say I'm in the stretch now. On the exhale, that's when you work in that little bit extra. Okay, uncross those legs. Let's cross them the other way. And one of the things you want to think about is anytime we do our stretching, as we go into this one again, like I say, maybe just your hands, maybe we're down into the forearms. Okay, you do want to make sure you're doing it on both sides equally. Okay, one of the things you'll find when you have a dominant side, as we always do, especially if you've got an injured side as well, one of your sides of your body will do more work than the other, so the work will be slightly different there. So we want to make sure that we're crossing it both ways, so both sides are getting the same kind of stretch, so we can maintain good balance throughout. If our body's not balanced through strength, through range of motion, then we can lead into bigger problems further down the line. Excellent stuff. Okay, we're going to go on to our sides now, and it's up to you how you keep your upper body. You can just bring yourself all the way down. You can put yourself in a typical teenager on the floor watching the TV position, but we are looking to make sure that the line from our ankle to our hip to our shoulders is nice and straight throughout. Okay, and I'm just going to shift forward so I've got enough space behind me. And all you're looking to do is grab your foot and bring it up to your bum. So we're looking to get heel to bum. Once you've got heel to bum, bring your knees together as much as you can, and then you're going to force your hip through. So heel to bum, knees together, hip through. Okay, wonderful stretch on the quad area, pushing muscles, big workhorses, especially in running, going up hills especially. So really try and maintain those three positions. Heel to bum, knees together, then get that hip through to really intensify that stretch. And as with a lot of the movements, we do want to try and although obviously I'm lying out at the moment, so my shoulder's up a little bit, but we don't want to kind of get all Hunchback of Notre Dame on any of our stretches. We want to keep that good upper body posture for the most part throughout. So keeping those shoulders away from earlobes through the range of motion. And then we'll go ahead and release that one. And we'll bring ourselves round the opposite way. Obviously you don't have to switch around like I just did. I just thought it'd be rude if I just showed you my butt for the next one. So same situation, shoulders to hips to knees to ankles all in alignment, heel to bum, knees together, and then hips through to really intensify the stretch. Think about that big breath, exhaling to push it on through that little bit more. Excellent. And this is one of the ones I find that you will increase very quickly the more you do it, okay? Quads are very receptive to stretching. They're a short muscle, they're a smaller muscle, so you're much more likely to see an increase in any kind of range of motion there a lot quicker than if it's a longer muscle. Excellent stuff. Okay, we're back against the wall now, and for the most part we're trying to keep, once again, our hips, our shoulders up against that wall. Now the closer that we bring our sole of our foot towards our chest, the more difficult this stretch is going to be. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to bring one foot up onto the knee and then just start to bring the other foot, which is flat, towards us a little bit more. Okay, so right now there's my position. I'm using my shin bone. You could flip a book on there, hold it on a book, but right now we've got a tremendous stretch in and around the glute area. It's really going to help get this It is this entire area well stretched with very relative little effort. So once again, I've got entire posture up against the wall being supported. Okay, if we were doing this away from the wall or your sofa or however you're doing it, right now this is one of those ones where you kind of grab your leg and you try and force your way into it, or you're lying on your back trying to pull it on in, and it can be very difficult. It's almost more of a fight to keep the stretch on than anything else. Whereas right here, you know, the stretch is locked in. I could be multitasking. I could be doing a whole range of other things. I could be talking to you on the webcam, for example, and getting the good stretch in. And like I say, like the more you bring this leg in, the more it intensifies the stretch in and around that glute area. This one is especially good for the kind of the connection between the hammy and the glute area. Glutes being one of those areas which are tremendously overlooked in all facets of exercise. We don't use them enough. Indeed, I would hazard a guess that if you went to any physio for any running related injuries, one of the things you're going to walk away with is them having told you that your glutes are underdeveloped and that they require mobility and in turn strength. So, same again with the other leg. So remember, same situation, my lumbar, my lower back is up against that wall and just relaxing against that wall in this same position. Remember, if it's too intense, then do take the foot further away. If it's not intense enough, bring it closer to the body. Keep those shoulders down as best we can and try and keep both butt cheeks on the floor. So try not to roll over too much on one. Try and keep that good sat up position throughout. Once again, it's in this whole area just here. It's almost like you feel the hip socket getting ripped out. That's not what we want, obviously, but it's all those surrounding muscles which are kind of keeping it all in place, getting a tremendously good stretch right here. And notice the imbalances as you're doing this. So I can feel for this one, for example, doing it this side, my left glute is definitely much tighter than my right. And so all that means is you need to be a little bit better, or at least I need to be a little bit better, making sure that I'm getting as much glute and stretching on this side as the other if I'm looking to increase that range of motion. Okay, good stuff. Okay, and the next one we're going to do is just as a bonus one, because we're runners, and one of the biggest problems with running is plantar fasciitis. If you've ever come across that, it's an absolute nightmare. But I do recommend, I don't really recommend a lot of stretching if you're perfectly healthy, but this is certainly one I do recommend just to kind of stave away that situation down there. All you're going to do is stack the toes onto the floor, heels high, and then pass your weight through them. Okay, if you've never done this stretch before on your feet, it can be incredibly intense the first time you do it. Okay, so do sitting it for 5 seconds, then come out of it, sit in it again, you know, work your way into it. But really, this is one that I do recommend that you do quite regularly as a runner, especially if you do have any PF symptoms or history. Whilst you're here, keep good posture over the top throughout. Excellent stuff. Okay, so that's all we're really going to do today, just those few little stretches. And like I say, generally my recommendation is only to be doing static stretching when you want more range of motion. Okay, if you've always wanted to touch your toes, do more stretching, more static stretching. If you have an injury in and around your girdle area, hamstrings, quads, that kind of thing, do stretching One of the things that will happen after an injury is your body will protect itself and reduce your range of motion. And only be doing static stroke and by doing the static stretching, you will recover that range of motion. So it is very important in certain situations, but it's not a necessity. I repeat that, it is not a necessity to do static stretching. I'm Coach Rich. Go ahead and leave a like on the video. Let me know you've been by. Drop any comments in the comment section. Let me hear what's going on in your mind. That's about it. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.